Well, it looks like OpenAI is at it again, shaking up the AI world with their brand new model, GPT 5.4. And from what we're hearing, this thing is a massive leap forward. So we're going to break down exactly what this model is, why it's such a strategic game changer, and what the very first testers are saying about its power. Let's dive in.
So that's a direct quote from someone who got to test it early, and it really sets the stage, doesn't it? A new best model on the planet. I mean, that is a huge claim. So the question is, how did OpenAI get to this point?
Okay, so to really get why GPT 5.4 is such a big deal, we have to rewind a bit and look at the problem OpenAI was facing with their older models. They had this strategic gap, and you better believe their competitors were taking advantage of it.
See, before this, if you were using OpenAI, you had this dilemma. On one hand, you had GPT 5.2, which was amazing for creative writing and had a great personality. But on the other hand, if you needed to do some serious coding or complex automated tasks, you had to switch over to a totally different model, the GPT 5.3 Codex. They were both powerful, for sure, but they were separate.
And yeah, this split personality thing, it was becoming a real problem. Because you had competitors, especially Anthropic with their Opus model, who'd already cracked this. They were offering one single model that could do it all, it was brilliant at creative stuff, and a beast at coding. All of a sudden, OpenAI looked like they were playing catch-up.
So what do? Well, as one person put it, they basically told GPT 5.2 and GPT 5.3 Codex to have a baby, and the result is what we now know as GPT 5.4. This isn't just another update, this is their new flagship, their everything model, built specifically to get rid of that fragmentation problem once and for all. And this thing really does bring it all together. You get the top-of-the-line coding from Codex baked right in with the personality and creative chops of 5.2. Plus, it's got better tool calling for those agentic tasks, it's faster, and it's more efficient with its tokens. And maybe the biggest deal of all, it finally has that massive 1 million token context window, putting it on par with its biggest rivals. This is the unified model they had to build. All right, so they're talking a big game here, right? A faster, smarter, unified everything model. But does it actually live up to the hype? Let's take a look at the numbers and some of these wild new demos. The coding benchmarks tell a really interesting story. On OS World, which is a test of general computer use, GPT 5.4 scores a 75%. Now that doesn't just beat Anthropic's Opus, it beats its own predecessor, the specialized 5.3 Codex, and it's the same story on Swebench Pro. Now think about that for a second. OpenAI's new general model is now a better coder than their old specialist coding model. That's a huge leap. And then there's GDP Eval. This is OpenAI's own test for how well a model can do real-world knowledge work. And just look at that jump. GPT 5.4 hits 83%, which is a full 13 points higher than the old Codex and 5 points higher than Opus. This points to a major improvement in just getting real work done. But raw power isn't everything, especially when you're talking about AI agents. Efficiency is absolutely critical. What you want is a model that gets the job done right in as few steps as possible, because every single one of those steps or tool calls cost you time and money. And wow, the leap in efficiency here is just staggering. On that same OS World test, the older GPT 5.2 barely hit 50% accuracy, and it took 42 different steps to get there. Now look at GPT 5.4. It hits a much higher 75% accuracy in just 15 steps. So your tasks are more successful, and they're also cheaper, faster, and way more reliable. OpenAI also added this really smart new feature that I think a lot of people are going to love. Before it tackles a complex task, the model can now give you an upfront plan of how it's going to approach it. This lets you check its work before it starts, so you can guide it and stop it from going down a rabbit hole and wasting your tokens. Okay, but the demos? This is where things get truly wild. One of the standout examples is a completely functional theme park simulation game. We're talking logic for money, guests, happiness ratings, the whole shebang. And the craziest part? It was all generated from one single, pretty simple prompt. And it's not just fun and games. We've seen other demos where it does bulk data entry from a messy file into a clean spreadsheet, and it looks like it's happening in real time. It can also act as your own personal assistant, managing your emails and your calendar, creating invites, and just organizing your life. These are seriously powerful tools for actual work. All right, so there has to be a catch, right? Well, yeah. All this new power, it's going to cost you.
It seems to be the trend that this next generation of top-tier AI is not getting any cheaper.
So let's break down the new pricing. For the standard model, the price for input tokens is going up from $1.75 to $2.50 per million. And if you're using the more powerful Pro model, that's jumping from $21 all the way to $30. Output costs are going up too. The message here is pretty clear. The model is way more powerful, but you're definitely going to be paying a premium for it.
So benchmarks are one thing, demos are another. But what's it actually like to use? Let's hear from some of the first people who got their hands on GPT 5.4 and see what they have to say.
Let's circle back to that quote from the very beginning. Matt Schumer, an early tester, calls it the best model on the planet by far. And get this, he also says the standard thinking version is now so good that he doesn't even need to use the pricier Pro models for his work anymore. That's a huge vote of confidence.
Okay, but it's not all sunshine and roses. The testers did flag a few issues. Apparently, its taste when it comes to front-end web design isn't quite as good as some competitors. It can also miss really obvious real-world context, like it might plan a perfect trip for you, but completely forget that it's spring break and every location is going to be packed. And sometimes it'll stop just a little short of finishing a task.
But when it comes to coding, man, the praise is just off the charts. Another tester, Flavio Adamo, said that GPT 5.4 was able to one-shot really complex coding problems for his company, tasks that were so time-consuming they didn't even bother trying them with older models. That really shows you its practical impact.
And lastly, even though you have to take it with a grain of salt since he works there, an OpenAI employee named Peter Steinberger really confirmed the main goal. He said it's not just about being better at code, but that it's unified and smarter on everything else, which makes it a much better general-purpose agent and just, quote, more pleasant to use. So what's the big takeaway from all this? Well, GPT 5.4 is a serious step forward. It shows that AI development is moving at an incredible speed, and that the new gold standard for a top model is one that unifies world-class creativity and coding into a single, super capable, but yeah, premium-priced package.
And that leaves us with one final thought. We just saw a model create a pretty complex video game from a single sentence. As these AI models get more and more powerful and unified, it really makes you wonder, what's a task that seems impossibly complex for a machine to do today that might just be completely automated tomorrow?